most people say Bon Jovi, they typically think of like 80s Bon Jovi. They typically think of like Bon Jovi from like hair metal Bon Jovi or hard rock Bon Jovi, or depending on who you talk to, it might actually include like this album here. This is following the success of Who Says You Can't Go Home in 2005, which is now 20 years ago. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Bon Jovi decided, hey, he's never been one. John has never been one to follow success. But needless to say, though, he kind of saw, hey, I had a #1 hit on the country charts with the collaboration with Jennifer Nettles for Who Says You Can't Go Home. And he created, and then he said, I like what I heard there. Let's go to Nashville and do a Nashville Sessions Bon Jovi album. And it came up with this album here with Lost Highway. And it's funny. I put it on the wheel because I do like a bunch of songs off of it. But does it hold up in the year 2025? I'd say the production does. I mean, it sounds very modern. It sounds very strong, in my opinion. But do all the songs hold up? That's a bit TBD at the moment, because I do enjoy a lot of the songs on this record, which I'll get into in a second. There are some songs that don't hold up as much as I remember them when the album first came out in 2007. But needless to say, though, I'm going to get right into it, Chai, with my little background here with the track listing and stuff like that. But yeah, this is but anyways, jumping over to the track listing for a second. This is actually his second album produced by John Shanks. John Shanks has been his producer now since 2005's Have a Nice Day. That's why his production is like varied from album to album for the most part. But since 2005, his producer is a guy by the name of John Shanks, who's I like the production on a lot of his records from the early 2000s and early 2010s as well, on a lot of his records, truthfully. But jumping right into Lost Highway, this should come as no surprise. This is a 10. Actually, it's not a 10 out of 10. I'm going to surprise both of you for a second. Lost Highway, the track, is actually not a 10 out of 10 for me. I love the track. Fun fact, I actually played this song as the first song on my road trip when I did in 2021, when I went across the country for 10 days. This is the very first song I played, which makes sense. It's a Lost Highway. I love, without going into each song, I just want to preface with what I'm saying by this. A lot of the songs, lyrically speaking, create a lot of heavy imagery and heavy images of different style parts of each song, like Lost Highway, like the visual of, in my rearview mirror, my life is getting clear. Like, it's depicting, going on a road trip across the country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I love his writing has evolved from not just You Love a Bad Name or Living on a Prayer or Lay Your Hands on Me or Bad Medicine. It evolved over time. And I love the evolution up until this point of his, truthfully, on this record specifically too. His lyric writing is very strong, and it shows you how he changed over time, which I applaud. So without going track by track by saying that, just want to preface by saying that too. But Lost Highway, 9 out of 10. One of my favorite Bon Jovi tracks from the 2000s, 2010s in general. Just a great song. When I saw them live in 2018, he played the song live. It was great. Love it. 9 out of 10. Summertime, a very underrated track, needless to say. This song was, I did a little bit of research on it too. It's not that popular on Spotify. Well, unexpected it would be, but it was only released in Canada as a single. But I'm surprised that more people have not gravitated towards this one song. This is another 9 out of 10 for me. Summertime, I actually, when I first heard the song, it was not by listening to this album. I had my regular summer playlist on shuffle in the car back in like April or May of 2023 maybe, and I had it on, and the shuffle came on, and I was like, oh my god, it's that new Bon Jovi song that I added. I forgot all about it. Summertime, great track. It really depicts, again, heavy imagery of just sitting by the beach in the wine, having a little wine. You're on. I love the imagery he creates in the song. Summertime, 9 out of 10. You Want to Make a Memory? I didn't realize that this was the lead single from their album. I actually thought it would be like the Lost Highway title track, or We Got It Going On, or A Whole Lot of Leaving, truthfully. But I didn't realize this was the first track, the single that got released. But no, a really nice ballad that he put together here with a collaboration from Desmond Child. For those of you who know the history of Desmond Child a little bit, Desmond Child was a guy who actually, he co-wrote Living on a Prayer. He co-wrote You Love a Bad Name. A bunch of Bon Jovi tracks from the 80s and 90s he co-wrote. He also co-wrote like so many other big hits too. Like even today, he co-wrote "I Was Made for Loving You" by Kiss. If you're not familiar with Desmond Child's work and his collaborations, it's insane. He makes hit records to a T, and he produced this. He actually co-wrote this with John and Richie, and it was a really beautiful track. Another 9 out of 10 for me right there. You want to make a memory. Um, Again, with sticking with heavy imagery and whatnot, a whole lot of leaving. I really like the guitar in here. I like the country style for this album of this song in particular. Great song. When I did see him live, this was one of the songs he played on live, and it went over live really well. This another, but it's 7.5. It could go up to 8 out of 10 given on the day, but I do like it a lot. So right now I'm leaning at a 7.5 for that one. We Got It Going On featuring Big and Rich. I didn't realize that Big and Rich was featured because if you go on Spotify, it doesn't actually say featuring Big and Rich. It just says We Got It Going On. But in the middle of the song, it just says, "And now for my country cousin, Big Kenny, talk to the people." He actually says it in the middle of the song, which was pretty crazy. I liked it. Big stadium anthem song, kind of a country rock song to a T. And it's I love it a lot. I listen to it a lot. That's another 8 out of 10, truthfully. And it just shows you the talk boxes back in there too, from like the It's My Life days of Living on a Prayer days. It's back in the song too. Really nice, a nice rocking song, a country rock song, if you will, which is great. And this is, believe it or not, guys, this is where we took a little bit of a step down. I'm going to kind of cluster the next three together because Any Other Day, Seat Next to You, and Everybody's Broken are all, to me personally, 6s out of 10s, all three, because I just kind of clump them together. Because it's one thing I've noticed listening to this album before we did our show was that this album to me is very front loaded, except for a couple tracks towards the end. But this one, Any Other Day, Seat Next to You, and Everybody's Broken are all 6 out of 10s. They didn't hold up as much as the first 5 did, and as much as I'll get to the next couple of tracks that I want to mention in a second. But yeah, they're kind of forgettable, not really there. They're good, but they're not as memorable as the first 5 tracks, or as I'm going to mention in a second, Till We Ain't Strangers Anymore with Leon Rimes. This is actually a really good, a really nice song that I like them. I like their collaboration here. It's actually really a nice collaboration. They actually did another collaboration too. No, sorry, I'm thinking Who Says You Can't Go Home. Sorry, with Jennifer Nettles. I like this. I like Till We Ain't Strangers Anymore. Is about a 7.5 out of 10 for this one. Nothing too crazy. It's a good track. It's a good country track for the most part. I do like it a lot though. It's a 7.5. Nothing too crazy. Then we go into The Last Night and One Step Closer. These are both at like 6s for me. They're not bad. They're just not as memorable as I thought they were going to be. Just for whatever reason, it just like didn't hold up a candle as much as the first part of the record did. And they're good, but they're not great. And then the last one on this album is actually, I love this town. This is just a fun track. I'm gonna give an 8 out of 10 for this one. It's just a fun track overall. About how, it's kind of a nice little ending to a really, what I think is a solid like country rock album to an extent. And I really wish that more people would discover this kind of like country, because when people think of country music, they think of like Luke Bryan or Luke Combs or people like that. I really wish that more people would discover this type of like Bon Jovi-esque country album that I think is great. But I love this town. I like the lyrics in it. It's very fun, upbeat song. Overall, I think I've been 8 out of 10 for that one. So overall, I mean, needless to say though, Bon Jovi, it's funny, in the late 2000s, leading to like 2008, 2009. 2009 was the Circle album, which I thought was actually a really solid album too. But the return to rock, more like adult contemporary rock, though not necessarily like hard rock. This is the overall. This album is, I like it a lot. I do remember it more as I listened to it. I remember like when it first came out, I was like excited or whatever, and some of the tracks really held up for me. Like I go back to the first 5 and tracks and Till We Ain't Strangers Anymore, and I love this town a lot more than I thought I did initially. But outside of those 6 or 7 tracks, the rest of the album kind of falls a little, not necessarily flat, but it's not as memorable as the other tracks on there personally. That's just me personally saying that, but needless to say, I still enjoyed it overall. There's a reason why I chose this album too for you guys too. I don't know if you guys knew about this. I wanted to pick an album by a rock artist that shows an evolution in his career. And I'm very curious to see what they have to say about this too in a second. With either Mike or Kyle, or either one of them say, because when people think of Bon Jovi, they typically go to "Living on a Prayer" or "You Give a Bad Name." They might go to "Bad Medicine." They might go to "I'll Be There for You." They go to his '80s or "Runaway." They don't really go to his 2000s or 2010s, even now in his 2020s songs either. But I think this just shows you how the band a band can start at a certain point in their career and evolve over time. And this is just one of one of the stops on their catalog, if you will. And I really liked how John and Richie did a good collaboration here, and they put together a solid record overall for us to listen to. Now it's 2025, and it's a really solid record overall. So I'm sitting at like a 7.75. I could go up to an 8 because I can't go up to an 8 only because the lesser tracks that are kind of forgettable are not that memorable as We Got It Going On or A Whole Lot of Leaving or Lost Highway or Two-Way and Strange. They don't hold up the rest of the album in that aspect. And on top of that, it is very front loaded. Like there was only 12 songs on this record, and it is very front loaded in general. So the first half of the record is very strong, with the second half is like, but it's needless to say, overall, I loved what I heard. I really enjoyed it. I go back to it more than I thought I did. So 7.75 could go up to an 8 out of 10.